After a few more tweaks, we're back in the game. I hope everyone got some rest, some good time to fellowship, some good food. My algorithm now is it's completely fabricated with the evolution of AI and the threat that I pose to Jewish financial supremacy. They can't afford me any kind of privileges. So this is just going to be kind of a video journal until the Lord either takes me home or does something supernatural. So in either case, I'm going to be content and share whatever thoughts with you that I think can be beneficial. So as usual, we'll start with product placement. These are the Vigilantes, the Hero Vigilantes. One of my personal favorites. Again, with the text on the inside and very professional label. So thank you to my supplier for creating this. It is a hard bottom shoe. This is actually a good kind of shoe for powerlifting. We discussed powerlifting before. And the gym that I was having trouble remembering was Westside Barbell. That was Louis Simmons and Dave Tate, and Matt Wenning was there. And they even worked with some Olympian sprinters a long time ago. So thank you again to Westside Barbell, and I hope you guys are doing well out there. I think they're in Ohio. So I was, at a my whole life I've been kind of drawn to the gym because, as I mentioned, just like the track, the gym pays. Okay, so while I'm on the air, what I'll do is we'll talk and we'll work. I've been making a few lighting adjustments because I don't want the distraction. So let's get this taken care of. Okay, and we're good. So as I mentioned before, my whole life has been kind of in one gym or another. Bread of Life Church was a gym of sorts. When my father was speaking, we got the Word of God at a pretty high level. I would say it. He was Michael Jordan to me. 93 to 98. Fridays and Sundays, we would be in the basement of our home with the other families, immigrant families, humble, prayerful for the most part, and eventually we got an opportunity to move to a church in St. Paul that gave us an upper room to have our little fellowship, and that's when we grew and got our white supervision. And now they're breaking ground on a new building, so good for them. But children, you're not going to get this lesson anywhere these days. And I don't know how long the Lord has for this current world, but I want to get credit for telling you this. The growth of something, whether it's a church, whether it's a business, whether it's Texas Movement International, is not about, the quality of growth is not about scale, and it's not about membership, and it's not about EBITDA. It's not about your revenue, okay? It is about how closely tied the execution of the mission is to its legitimate spiritual purpose. Okay? The proximity of those two things to each other, that is what truly matters. So, me getting a gold medal in the 100-meter dash was never the be-all, end-all goal. Okay? I would have loved to get a scholarship to a Division I school, NCAA, for football or track. I would have loved to have a good amateur boxing record against healthy competition of my peers. I would have loved to be the most sexually proficient instrument that ever lived. Uh, but, you know, those are just, feathers in your cap that have very, very temporary value. Okay. Now, as a young person, it's very hard to hear these kind of spiritual platitudes, and I fully recognize that. When I was young, and my dad was bitching about 10 cents and 25 cents that he gave me here, and $1 he gave me there, and making me feel like I was the worst person in the world for misplacing something here or there. My God, the freedom I feel now in this cell is so much more than I felt ever as a child. And no amount of education is worth that hassle. So believe me, the moment I went to college and got my first C, I was like, you know what? This is not bad at all. And so I grew accustomed to the C's get degrees mentality. And I was right, because I have never used anything besides the concept of limits and derivatives in conversation. Matrix structural analysis, I had to take it 4 times. 4 times I had to take it. Ugh, goodness gracious. I guess thank you IIT for the degree, but my God, what a curse of a time it was in my life. And again, thank you to Ogden Park, Fuller Park, Taylor Park, and Oak Park River Forest, Kevin Allen, for giving me some breathing room from that torturous time in my life, and all the young women that gave me company. I'm grateful to you. Oh, my Lord, thank you. The public safety and the janitorial and cafeteria staff and the secretaries were just as much family and friends to me as any actual friend. And I knew going in that was an investment that was worth making. So if you're out there and you hear any of my words, I want you to know that you played a very important role in my life, getting me through that difficult time. So that's another example of trying to trust a material outcome or a material reward as your idol. It's not a good thing. Okay? Yeah. Running 9.7, amazing feat. And being able to hit that velocity from 60 to 80 meters. Usain and Tyson and Johan and Justin and all those big dogs, they've gone to a place that none of us have gone. So they deserve their respect. They deserve their place on the podium of history. And I recognize their great supremacy. But, if I don't have what the Lord wants me to have at the end of my journey, then, eternity will be very, very uncomfortable for me. And I'd much rather be comfortable in eternity than be comfortable in Illinois. Illinois has not been particularly impressive to me as a retirement location. And I can't imagine the fatigue and stress my mother must have been under going through winter after winter here. And I don't intend to punish anybody for it, but my father partnered with his oppressors one too many times. Some slaves are more concerned with the condition of their master's health than they are with their own family. You see Samuel L. Jackson's character in Django as an example. They like the ability to sit down in the library with a drink and a chair. They enjoy the facade of being able to speak with their oppressor face to face. I never enjoyed that charade. A young woman once asked me to write her a letter about why I loved her, and I had to invent all kinds of sweet nothings to put on paper in order to keep the rehearsal environment going so I could continue getting my practice in. Once you lose your purity, you have to replace it with all kinds of trophies to make yourself feel better about your own failure. Any good oppressor will see this and exploit it as a weakness. I know that in many of these video journal entries I am bouncing around from topic to topic. So what I'm trying to do is recount what I've said previously, and whenever I've missed or cut myself off and bounced around, I'm going to try to come back to it in the next installment or somewhere down the line so that we tie up all our loose ends, okay? I was speaking about my time at Sweat. I was a general manager for a small boxing gym that was the first 24-hour boxing gym in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Okay, it started off as a apartment personal training business for residents of luxury apartments, and eventually that company had the ability to get its own standalone building. And at that time, I was the top revenue generating trainer of that small company. It was not a lot of revenue, but I had put forth enough effort to show that I could manage a better position. I've always tried to be faithful in the small things that I've been given, small offices, without incurring too much jealousy from others. But sometimes your presence itself triggers the envy of other people who may have made different decisions in life than you have. Okay? So, one of the skills you need to learn is how to be a good number two, being a good subordinate. Okay? One of the parables I always try to live my life by was when Jesus said, when you go into a banquet or a dinner or a gathering, don't immediately go and look for the head of the table seat or head of the table position. Take the most modest position that you can in a room that meets your needs, okay? Don't starve yourself for the benefit of anybody else, but if you see, a place that's comfortable for you, like for example, when you move to a new city, you don't immediately need to go and move to the best neighborhood and buy a matching car and do all that type of stuff. Or when you get your first job out of college or something like that, you don't need to let lifestyle creep, look it up, dictate your lifestyle. Okay? That is a quick recipe for slavery over time. It's just a different kind of slavery. You need to know the difference between healthy self-esteem and hubris. Okay? It's important to know exactly what you need, which is why, every once in a while you should take an honest audit of what your real budget is. Okay? So budget out how much you need to live for the month, and then give yourself a 10 to 15% cushion on that, a factor of safety, as they say in engineering. And then, kind of be comfortable living at that lifestyle. Okay? Learn to be happy with yourself. Do not try to date a woman that has an appearance that will make you feel better about your own personal insecurities. That's a recipe for disaster as well. That's just like buying a car you can't afford the payment on. Okay? It's better to buy a car all in cash. That way you don't owe anybody anything. Okay? When I was the general manager of Sweat, Sweat Boxing and Training at that time, it was also Sweat Wellness and Nutrition. So I was kind of head over about a staff, I'd say 15 or so. Some of them were 1099 people, some of them were W-2 people. But I answered to the ownership. Okay? I was not the owner. However, the owner asked me to represent the company at Business Networking International, and I was around a table with other owners and, kind of solopreneurs. So I had to have the mentality of an owner, but with the humility of a general manager. Okay? And even that awareness and balance was triggering to some of the people at that time that were in the ownership and training staff. A mentor told me once that when someone in the military is promoted, and they were previously peers with everybody else, but they're promoted to management, usually they're shifted to a different department so that the previous peers will not resent and be insubordinate. I think that's a good habit, good practice, but that's not always possible. So some of this discomfort will happen as you begin your career. And there is some racial implications to this as well. If you're African American or Hispanic, or even Asian to some degree, and Asians and Indians, we're going to lump us together, okay? And you know why. So don't try to, have your cake and eat it too. It's not going to work. When we go into white environments, we're very well aware, because of how they've trained us in elementary, middle, and high school, we're very well aware of which lunch table they want us to sit at, right? And we are allowed to have academic success as long as we don't threaten any of the social landscape, right? I was always guilty of the crime of threatening the social landscape because I did not grow up in a home that needed to recognize white intellectual supremacy. And as a matter of fact, it would actually cause me significant injury to even pretend that that was the case. And so in the same way that I made ownership and some training staff jealous at Sweat, every academic place I went to and every professional place I went to that had white leadership was threatened not only by my communication skill, but by my unwillingness to contort myself to their silly notions of supremacy. Okay, whether they were white or Jewish. They want to have meetings in back rooms to sabotage your entire career, and then they want you to come into work on time and early and smile about it, and then not give you any access to their women. No. If you let people curb stomp you, they're going to curb stomp you. So, like drug dealers say, let the police do their job. If you need to do an FBI or CIA profile on me and then gradually surround me like Frank Lucas coming out of church, right, to get you, that's what you have to do. Okay? You gave everybody else a government deal except for me. And these are the same people. We're going to now we need to talk about this. Every place I go to that has white leadership, all they talk about is mental toughness. But these are the most fragile intellectual people, emotionally fragile people. They want you to believe in a false Jesus. They litter their suburbs with 501c3 theft operations. They want you to forget about what happened just 10 minutes ago in America's history. And they want you to memorize the Anne Frank poem, they came for these people, they came for these people, they came for these people, and then they came for me, and no one was there to speak up for me. And then they shoot black people in the street. They want Hispanic people mowing all their lawns and doing everything, back-breaking work, all the construction work they want Hispanic people doing from sun up to sundown. So much work that they have to do before they go home. And they can't even go home. Sometimes they have to get a hotel so they can come back to work at 6 a.m. the next day. And these are the people, see, trying to be cute. These are the people that need to be in charge of everything. And they're the mentally tough people. Now they want H-1B people to come over here and work 14, 16 hours a day because they didn't teach any of their children how to do any kind of work. They say AI is going to be a threat. What threat? All I did was listen to my parents, go to school, play sports, finish college, and try to get a job. And I'm the greatest threat to American society that's ever existed. I'm so sorry. I don't want you to put your dick inside my son's rectum when he's in kindergarten. My sincerest apologies for that. If you want to buy me off, I need to be comfortable. Lord, be with all those under the whip of oppression. Okay, kids, a lot of you may be having some kind of suicidal ideation, suicidal thoughts about ending your life. I'm going to take a different approach to that conversation. I'm going to give you a pass if that's what you want to do. Okay? I don't want you to do that. However, a lot of times people are going to have some kind of fear mongering over you that if you do that, God's not going to approve of you and you're going to spend your eternity in. No, that's not going to happen. Okay, not on my watch. Okay? You use my code and we'll get you up there. I'm the promoter now. However, when you do that, we miss out on the opportunity of what could happen tomorrow. And I know it's very frustrating to hear that. Trust me, I'm aware. I've had to deal with these kinds of tomorrow promises for 20 plus years. So the frustration, we share that part. Okay? But as angry as I was in high school and college, what you have that is an infinite wealth that all these old people don't have is you have your life in front of you. Okay? Every day you have the infinite wealth of youth. Okay? Doesn't matter if some girl embarrassed you in your most private moment, if you had the biggest failure personally, socially, whatever, when you went to school. It doesn't matter if you got exposed in any kind of way. There is a way back from everything, I promise you. Okay? And as long as I'm around, I'm going to try to give you positive feedback that will try to shine a light on that roadmap for you. Okay? We may not be able to trust the Bible and pastors the way we would have maybe 30, 40 years ago, but that's okay. Okay? The creator of this world and the cosmos is able to communicate through any medium that he wants. All right, so you don't worry about that. A lot of what you're dealing with, frustration and depression wise, is because of shitty leadership. And so it's my job to kind of figure. Thanks, guy. It's my job to kind of figure out how to deal with that. Okay, so you let me worry about that, and I would love it if you stuck around. Okay, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. If only to see what crazy stuff I say tomorrow. All right. Okay. That's a good chunk for the time being. Okay. I took a nap earlier. We might get something else in today. But if not, tomorrow's a new day. All right. Tomorrow's a new week. Okay. We're halfway through December, end of 2025. Now's a perfect time. Now's a perfect time to get you one of these, get you some kind of journal. These whiteboards are like $20, and they're great for fleshing out your thoughts. And if you don't want to do that, you just take a piece of paper and write it down. Physically develop that skill. Okay? It will distribute some of that depression and stress into an external medium, and once it's there, believe it or not, subconsciously the weight of it leaves your mind. Okay? Because it'll always be there for you. You can always come back and feel bad about it if you want to. But usually once you take that weight off of your brain, there's a sigh of relief internally that happens. Okay? So I'm going to try to keep giving you these strategies so that your teens and 20s and hopefully beyond will continue to get better and better and better. Because that's what life is supposed to be. Okay? You're supposed to enjoy, your youth. Okay, I don't think youth is wasted on the young at all. Maximize your youth and be young and be stupid and, don't worry about, your mistakes coming back to bite you. The wisdom from your mistakes will come back to help you. Okay? That's the way we're going to look at these things. We're always going to flip it and look at the more optimistic way of looking at situations. Okay? So, be strong. Think positive, be wise, and plan on being around for the future. Because the future needs you. I need you. Okay? If you're not here to talk to, I'm screwed. All right? I love you, and I want the best for you. All right? We will talk soon. Bye-bye.